Hey, you are about to hear an interview with Jon Thompson, who runs a company called 1035. Jon works in the area of blockchain and connecting brands to new technologies and helping new brands use new technologies to grow their brands and go mainstream. It's a fascinating conversation about the uses of blockchain and how that also intersects with AI. Welcome, Jon. Thank you so much for joining me on my podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to speak.
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited to speak about blockchain, which I know you've been working in, and you've been working in kind of media and new media for many years now. So if I could start, maybe you could introduce yourself to the people who are watching and tell them, how you got interested in media and then specifically blockchain after that.
Yeah, so my background is in social media, and really what began that is, I went to college. I was a freshman in 2004, which was pretty much when Facebook launched, and so just kind of being the first, some of the first users on Facebook, I've always been intrigued by what social media can do, how it can bring people together, how you can collaborate. How you can share media, how everyone kind of can connect in that way. So have always had that interest, and so after college, I wanted to get into marketing and figuring out really how to bring brands to life. Whether it's in social media or other forms of media, and it just so happens when it comes to what I've done mostly in my career, it's been through social media. So working with some pretty big brands in the past, Mars and M&M's, Kroger, Snapchat. Was at Ogilvy, which is one of the bigger agencies in the world, and so and that's always been my interest. And actually, about 10 years ago, I learned about Bitcoin and was really interested in kind of the technology and what it could do. And actually wrote a TV series concept about. I'm a big sports fan, but it's about paying college athletes through Bitcoin through some kind of underground scheme, so players couldn't get caught. I've always been a proponent for players getting paid to play college sports, and actually now they finally can, which is great. So, but I was just thinking about that with the technology a while back. Unfortunately didn't buy anything. But fast forward about 4 or 5 years to 2016, 17, just started to learn a lot more about it, dive into it. What can it do for us as society? What can it do for brands? But then also personally, how can I learn? How can I learn about the technology, but also how can I make money from it? So there's just many different ways and reasons that people get into Web3 and crypto, and I feel like I've touched most of the ways, and hoping to continue as it grows and builds.
That's really great. I think we're probably about the same age then, given when you talked about when you got on Facebook, because I think we were probably the OG social media generation, right? Like the first people on, kind of grew up with it. We're kind of the bridge between the older generation and the younger generation, I feel. And it seems like you kind of like technology because it has this opportunity to do like good in the world. Outside of doing your work for brands and sort of showing brands in the best light on social media, it seems like there's this kind of side like interest in how can social media connect us? How can blockchain like repair these kind of historical problems, right, with these industries? Thinking about college athletes who I don't follow sports, so this is going to be, I think that's where you have to educate me. I do know, because I'm at Northwestern, I do know our players like went on strike or something because they wanted to get paid a few years ago, and I don't know if they were successful then, but you're saying they were successful. They have been successful now.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, just really, it's been building for the last 20 plus years. I mean, honestly, since the Fab Five, which is it's a group of 5 players that played at Michigan in the 90s, and they kind of just changed how people how athletes dressed on court, how they acted off court. They were the first to wear black socks, things like that. And Nike was selling things and labeling it Fab Five, and it was nothing that really people didn't really pay attention to it too much then. But over the years, just how sports has grown, and it's literally $1 billion industry, and coaches are getting $10 million a year, and there are players who none of it would be possible without the players, and none of them were getting paid. And so that has really been building. And, basically a few years ago, the NCAA decided that they were going to start paying players, or allowing players, actually, they're not paying players, but they're allowing players to now use their likeness to make their own money, which any other person in school can, but they couldn't. So now they're able to do that. And, one of the reasons is that people were upset about it and saying that's not right. But I would say the main reason was because there were becoming other organizations who were, creating leagues for players to skip college and go overseas and things like that. And the NCAA was losing those players, and therefore would be losing money. So they figured that there was this is the time that they had to start, changing in some way at least.
Yes, it's often the market that's the incentive and not actually the social good.
Exactly.
So we'll talk about blockchain in sports, I'm sure. But I'm just curious, just backtrack a little bit on your interest in social media and the work that you've done for brands. What was that work like? I mean, it's so part of the advertising economy. When, we were just jumping on social media, brands were not on social media. They were super skeptical of it. And then in the 2010s, they realized that that was the way to kind of connect with their potential consumers. So how was that? Like, what were the challenges and promises that you saw in that space? And then after that, is that connected at all to your interest in blockchain?
So I mean, I've always had kind of interest in how can brands use social media, and it's changed a lot over the years. Brands initially would come in and say, "Oh, we just have to do something on social media. Let's just post," and there was no real strategy. And then they realized there's a strategy, and then people started, the platforms, Facebook, Instagram. They started adding, ad products, and the only way that brands could get noticed was to use those ad products. And then so it started, going more towards what's the algorithm, and so brands started realizing there is a strategy, and so it was more of, hey, let's create a framework and a strategy for our overall social media, presence, and then it's even evolved from there. Now it's it's about. And really, it's become the Gen Zs. They have come in and they said, hey, like, we don't really care as much about the celebrities and, what they used to mean to people. We like people that look like us, or we like people that are our age, that are, influencers. And so that's what came about. And so brands they're pivoting more to, using influencers, whether it's for just their brand or for social good. There's some influencers who just do social good work. There are, some influencers who do, any and everything. It doesn't matter. But brands, they've just really had to evolve the way that they think about how to use social media, using it strategically, using it to amplify a television commercial, or using it to, be in sync. So what you see on social media is exactly what you see on television, which is exactly what you see on a billboard. So, it's changed a lot over the years. It's gotten much, much more strategic, as many more platforms have come and created more ad products, or, different focuses. Like TikTok is more focused on creators. And so brands are going in that creator and influencer, in that path more than they have previously as well. So yeah, it's changed a lot over the years, and I've tried to evolve over the time with that.
Yeah, it's like I see these ads on Instagram, and it'll be someone in the ad, and I don't know who they are, and it almost looks like a post from just a regular person, right? Like you're fooled for just a split second, and it does seem like that has been the trend in the last few years, where it's supposed to feel kind of more authentic. Like this, it's not someone necessarily trying to sell you a product, but they're just telling you, hey, I use this thing or whatever, it's good. Check it out. And so there's this kind of need for like authenticity, and they're almost like, they're lo-fi. They're not slickly produced, right? As used to be produced for like $100,000, millions of dollars in a studio. Yeah. And now it's like, here, just do something with your phone.
It's the same thing with, that's the same thing with music. It used to, big studios were needed. Now people can do in their, in their bedrooms. With content, it used to be, using, camera, high definition or expensive cameras, and now you can use your cell phone or use CapCut to do different things with videos just in seconds. And to be honest, people are just not going to notice that much of a difference. Like somebody who's really big graphic designer or whatever, they may say, oh, that wasn't, they didn't use this program, they used something simpler or whatever. But the general consumer is just caring about how it connects with them personally and emotionally.
Yeah, totally. So it kind of feels like the reason why I'm asking about social media is, we often talk about blockchain in terms of Web3, and social media really is like Web 2.0. And it was this whole idea of like people can connect with each other through these like seamless platforms, and production and distribution can like happen instantaneously, and people can talk back and interact and shape things. So, how does blockchain evolve from that? Like, what to you is blockchain, and like this idea of Web3?
It's blockchain. It's creating a kind of a decentralized economy, a decentralized community. With Web2, people can still kind of, vet you in a way, and, figure out who you are, and what you do in a way that could be prejudice. In Web3, it takes away some of that. It's decentralized, meaning that, if there's a creator who, creates something amazing, they don't have to go through a central source to put that out into the public. The Bored Ape Yacht Club, it's the biggest NFT project out there. It was, just created by, a few random people, and they put it out there, and it got big. That can't really happen in Web2, or that can't really happen just in the world that we're kind of living in now. There's always some kind of central authority. It's probably most comes from banking, and how, banks, the authority they have over, and the control that they have over people, because you have to go through a bank, with blockchain and crypto. And the reason that people love it so much, because you don't need a bank. The confirmations that you get to make a transaction just comes from a regular person, and it's a couple of dollars maybe to, and sometimes even cents, depending on which chain you're using, to send money, across the entire, you could send $100,000 for $1. But if you're trying to use a bank to do that, you're going to lose maybe a couple of $1,000s trying to do that. It's making it so you don't need a central source. It's making it so you're trusting a community of people, rather than a couple of people who just kind of have a power over people based on their money. It is having complete transparency. So, being able, when it comes to supply chain, so say you're, tracking produce, being able to know exactly what farm it came from and every stop that it made by looking at the blockchain to see that, being able to, see, when it comes to social impact, these days, right now, it's really hard to tell, where your donations may go, when you're giving to, a certain campaign or initiative. But with blockchain, all of that can be followed every step of the way. And that is why, people are moving in that direction. Are there, bad players because of that? Because it is, because you're anonymous, because what we call you're undoxed in the space. Yes, but that's, part of why, and it's part of why it hasn't been adopted yet, but it's also part of what people now are trying to build different applications and layers to figure out how to kind of vet that and to, make it safer and more secure for people as it does grow.
Yes. Yeah. This idea of like decentralization seems critical to at least the values behind a lot of what people behind blockchain are interested in. When we were talking about social media, it's like if you're a brand or just a regular person, you're reliant on Instagram and how they govern that space for like how your content moves. And you can't track who sees it really, or did they see it, or are they real people or not, or whatever, right? It's all kind of this central authority who's using this thing called an algorithm that's totally proprietary, totally opaque. It's a black box. Nobody knows how it works. A lot of times the people who work for the company don't even know how it works. Yeah. And so with blockchain, I think there's this idea that you can like track and authenticate digital things, right? Which is new for us, right? Like the digital is this thing that's kind of immaterial. It's not like a physical object that you can like see necessarily in real time, like how it's moving, but all of a sudden you can now with blockchain. And it seems like that makes it less necessary to have these kind of central authorities who are there to authenticate how things are moving, right? So it seems like this is a thing that could maybe destabilize the power of these entrenched corporations like the social media companies, the banks, and put the hands back into what, you kind of said community, where we collectively kind of govern ourselves or something. How does that relate to the work that you're doing? Because I think you kind of work in the NFT space, right? Or was maybe one of the spaces?
Yeah, I mean, really all of Web3, but I would say primarily NFTs, or they touch NFTs in some way, whether it's the initial access or there is some kind of further utility attached to that NFT.
Can you define for our audience, if they don't know, what an NFT is and how you use it?
Yeah, so NFT is it's a non-fungible token. It's something that is minted to the blockchain. So let's say it's uploaded to the blockchain, and once something is like put onto the blockchain, then it is there forever and it can be tracked. There's complete transparency, and so what people have been doing with NFTs, I mean, there's many different forms. I mean, it can be, image, it can be audio, video, but, let's just say, images, this is something that can be traded, and it has, each one is different. With a coin, like Bitcoin, it's all the same. Like, you trade a Bitcoin for a Bitcoin, it doesn't matter. With the NFT, it could be a community, a collection that all has the same utility, or each individual NFT can have a separate utility. Each individual can unlock and give you access to something different. With the most part, let's go back to Bored Apes again, which, because a lot of people may, if you know about NFTs, is probably the one that if you own one of the first 10,000 of those, like the cheapest one you can get right now is around, let's say, like $80,000 or more. But like owning that, people say, oh, I can just right click and save that. Yes, you can, and you can put it on your wall and all that, but the technology allows for the people that actually own those 10,000 that have been uploaded into the blockchain to have access to special events, to be able to get clothing and merch, to be able to be in this exclusive club with different athletes and celebrities who have helped to make this the most popular NFT project. Also, it's access to more, leading to more free capital. Like they will, what you call, airdrop other NFTs or airdrop coins that have a monetary value that you can trade out for real dollars and put into your bank account. And so, the NFT, it's really, for me and for really most people, it's access into some kind of community. And by owning that, you can get special utility, based on, depending on what that community is, whether it's going to an event, or like I said, getting more free NFTs, or being able to join a special Discord server. To be able to join a server or to join a special website, you need to hold that NFT in your wallet. And if you don't, you just won't be able to join that or join that community and be a part of that. So there's many different ways that you can use an NFT, and many different ways that people can describe it, but that's how I would describe it.
Yeah, I think the popular discourse has been very focused on like, oh, people are buying these JPEGs. It's kind of like the art world, but like cheaper or whatever. But what you're focusing on is like, it's not necessarily only just about the art object, right? Or the thing that you have. It's actually a connection to and proof of that you belong in this community, which is a very different way of thinking about art than we have historically known. Usually you buy art, you just put up on your wall and you get to say that you own it and you can resell it at a profit, maybe, right? But yeah, you can do that with an NFT, but it's more about like you own that thing to be part of something bigger than yourself, which is, I think, a really cool idea. So I'm curious how you work in NFTs, or like what, because it's like kind of connected to sports, right?
No, I mean, that would be probably a small part of it. Okay. But I mean, I kind of touch, I mean, it's really like any and everything, but my main kind of focus is like the brands that we all know, either in Web 2 or before Web 2. Like a lot of my focus is how do I introduce those brands to the new technology, to the communities that most align with their brand, and how can they utilize and leverage these community, and vice versa. So I mean, the brands are always looking for what's the newest technology that we can get in. It's either how can we be the first, or how can we use it most efficiently and be the best at it. And so that's what brands are looking at now. And I'm kind of figuring out and identifying what brands are looking at it. Some brands are not looking at it at all, and some are, there are some brands that are just innovative. So I'll go to them and say, is there interest? And there's some brands that are saying, hey, I want to get into Web3. How do I do it? What's the best way? Many brands that, when they first heard about Web3 and NFTs, they said, oh, people know us. We have a big name. We're just going to drop something and people are going to buy it, and we're going to build a community. And some of them dropped stuff and they made lots of money very quickly, but there is literally no community, and they may not be able to, it may be hard for them to get back into the space the next time, because it's not like kind of any other space we've had before, because this is about ownership. When we talk about it in a marketing way, or a loyalty program. So it's if you're part of a Starbucks or a Kroger or a grocery store loyalty program, that's free. These NFT, the NFTs, these are they're loyalty programs but they're not free. Some of them can be a lot of money, and so that emotional connection it's a much bigger driver. And so that's what the brands are trying to tap into. Like if someone is willing to buy our NFT and then be with us in this journey, like they're probably our most loyal fan, because they actually put their money and real investment into it, like you've never been able to do with the brand before. And so, so part of it is introducing those brands into it. What is the right community for you? Like what is a community that's going to like you, and vice versa. And then the other part of it is, I'm in many different NFT communities, and I know the community well, and what projects are looking to do what and how they're looking to grow. And now projects are now looking at how do we become a real brand that people know just from walking down the street. And so I'm working with those brands, and I'm saying, hey, this is the best way for you to get in contact with a Web2 brand, or a brand that can help you. You have 10,000 people that hold your NFT. Like that's maybe a lot to you and within this space of Web3, but that's like nothing in the real world. So the only way for Web3 to go mainstream is to connect with these brands and to do it the right way. So there's kind of those two sides, and Web3 is not gonna it's not gonna move forward and not gonna go mainstream unless there's someone kind of in the middle making that connection. And that's kind of what I've been doing, with several different projects, whether it's some that are that are kind of more just getting started and trying to go to market, or some that have already launched and are really, really popular. So like one is called OK Bears. They're one of the more popular projects out there. And then I connected them with the contact of mine at IMG, which is the biggest licensing company there. And about 6 months ago, they signed a deal, which was like one of the first of its kind in the space. And so like they're going to help them get the OK Bears brand into over 1,000 stores and make it more mainstream. And so there needs to be more of that in an authentic way. And it's a lot of people don't know how to do that right now.
So that's really interesting. You kind of talked about these two sides. There's the one helping established brands kind of connect to Web3 and, you know, almost this like top down, like everyone already knows about this, but how do we key into like the really core community that we have, which is a little different from Web 2.0 social media, where it seemed like brands just wanted as many people to see their stuff as possible, to interact with as many people as possible. Generally, you know, of course, with exceptions. And then the other end of like taking these more emerging Web3 grown communities and brands and helping them scale up bigger while keeping that authenticity, right? So like there's this need to like access a core authenticity that maybe you haven't been developing, and you've been developing this authenticity, but how do you grow and still keep it? So
a good example of that is OpenSea. Like they're known as the biggest marketplace. You know, their thing was user growth. Like let's drive user growth, and like they don't hire people they don't even care about hiring people that know Web3. Like they care about hiring people that know Web2 and Web2 growth. And they've actually gotten themselves now in a really kind of bad spot because of focusing on that, and because of charging fees that shouldn't really have been charged for multiple years. People just started calling them out on that, and other platforms came out that have come about that care about the Web3 user, and they care about the Web3 community, and they're hiring people that know about Web3 and they're passionate about Web3. And so OpenSea is now sitting there with very low volume. They're trying to work with big brand partnerships, but brands that don't have anyone connected to Web3. And so like they've lost a lot of market share, and people that are truly in the Web3 don't like OpenSea really at all. Like if they were to kind of change and like to help to make it more mainstream, then yes. And that's what they kind of were doing at first with the user growth. But then people realized that they don't really care about the users, and they don't really care that much about the creators. And so they're just a company with a big name and not a good reputation in the space right now.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like in the Web 2 era, you could get away with growth and not caring about creators and still make money, and people would still have to come to your platform because they had to go to that central thing. But now in Web 2, there's a little bit more flexibility amongst the creators and the people who hold NFTs or are in the space to like maybe go somewhere else or use another platform or create something.
Yeah, because it's decentralized, anyone can create anything. And the way the Web3 space works is that the people who are successful and been in the space, they may only have 10,000 followers, but some of the people like 5 or 10,000 are some of the most influential people in the space, and they can create something that is maybe better because they actually these are like really like tech people who they're like so smart that they don't even want to let people know who they are. Because of things that they may have intentionally or accidentally done in the space, but because they're that much smarter than everyone else, and they're able to build things and ultimately make money. And so they're able to do this. And then those people know the most popular people in the space. And so they all get on what we call crypto Twitter or CT. And we're going to use what they use. We're not going to use what OpenSea and this central authority, which is they're supposed to be in the space and be decentralized, but everyone knows that OpenSea is not decentralized. They are very decentralized. They are very Web 2, and in a lot of ways not good for the space.
Yeah, OpenSea is very centralized, you meant.
Yes.
Yeah, so I feel like there's this interesting kind of, thing where it's like, on the one hand, decentralization gives a lot of power to communities and creators. On the other hand, it feels like capitalism always pushes people towards centralization. and centralization always causes these kind of moral problems, right? Of like, I mean, this is when what people know about Twitter, like FTX and these kind of scandals, are really centralized authorities pretending to be decentralized, right? Yeah. And when you're centralized like that, you can manipulate markets. So I feel like, I guess one of the questions that I have, and I've been wondering, like, is Web3 necessarily going to stay decentralized? Like, can it stay decentralized? Do we need centralized players to authenticate and like be these hubs where everybody gathers? Or are we moving towards a digital economy that's truly just like Wild West, free for all? There's no Instagram, Facebook. It's like you're using this platform today, next year it's this platform. Like, I don't know if you think about this, or if some part of what you do is help brands and both emerging and established brands navigate this tension.
Yeah. So the government, at the end of the day, the government they're going to get their money. And so like they are like, it's kind of both. There's going to have to be kind of centralized players, but hopefully in a way that is to protect people, that is for safety precautions, for security, because that's very, very needed. There are smart scammers in the world already, but these people they're kind of on a different level of scamming, and so like there needs to be centralized either figures or practices that are in place. But for me, when it comes to like who is confirming transactions, that part needs to be decentralized. Like when someone creates something and puts it through the blockchain, like it needs to have the ability to go through and let the public, let the Web3 community decide if it's good or bad, if it's good art or bad art, if it's a good project or it's a good app or bad app, and that's how it is now. And they've recently changed the proof mechanism to allow Ethereum holders. It used to be just miners who are approving transaction, but now it's people who hold Ethereum are soon going to be able to stake their Ethereum, and by staking that, they become a validator on the network. And so like that definitely needs to stay. There needs to be what they call ZK, zero knowledge. So people need to be able to approve and confirm transactions without having to release their identity. There is a person, and this person is legitimate, and they have a history of legitimate transactions, but you don't need to know who that person is to be able to, whether it's judge them or whether it's to find them or whatever. And so that's the part that needs to definitely stay. Web3 is really, it's really like it's really more of thinking about life in a decentralized way of like everyone needs to have the ability to believe that they can create anything at any point and put it out into the world, and it could potentially be found. And they need to have the ability to think that they can grow their own community without anyone being able to stop that. And so it's the thought behind what Web3 is, and it's how transactions are confirmed, which needs to stay decentralized. But when it comes to making things more secure, that needs to be centralized. And again, the government, they're going to do what they're going to do to get money, whether it's for the good or bad of people.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to get all the way into it, but that is kind of the background tussle behind all of this just debate around crypto in Washington, and now with like the New York State Attorney General, where governments want to be the authenticator. They want to be able to like figure out who's making the transactions. They don't want this kind of transparency. They want to be the kind of intermediary, it seems. I mean, there's, talk that the US federal government will offer the digital dollar, the central bank digital currency. And what that will basically mean, or could mean, is that the central bank is the bank of crypto. So all transactions, basically the government sees, right? And they authenticate, which means if you buy anything online, the government will see it, right? If you send anything online, the government will see it and maybe be able to track it directly to your social security number, versus like Ethereum, where it's this kind of zero knowledge anonymous authentication where you can send stuff and prove that it's been sent and get your money and know that you've made that connection without an outside authority, right? Because Ethereum is just a code, right? It's not like there's people behind it who are like looking at every single transaction, right? And so it's kind of, this is where it's like, is it a currency? Is it a commodity? It's a tool, right? It's a tool for people to send things to each other on the internet in an anonymous way. So that's going to be the big probably challenge of this next 10 years or so. Like, what's going to happen with all of that? And will we have the control, or will the government have the control? But I'm also curious, as these things evolve, it feels like in the last couple months, blockchain has taken a step back as the hot new technology to AI, and everyone, AI is the next thing. Blockchain's over. It's all about AI now. And AI has its own kind of ways of decentralization, right? Like you can make and produce things very simply just on your own, where normally you'd need, if not a team, at least lots and lots of time to make something. Do you think that AI is replacing blockchain, or is there actually a world in which these things are building on each other?
I mean, for me, it's obvious the latter. I mean, they're two completely different technologies. I think that media slash how algorithms, are curating content. It's just right now it's more AI, but they're two completely different technologies. I was doing a panel at NFT NYC a few weeks ago, and I actually asked the question, is AI a competitor to Web3? And the answer from everyone was no. But it's, again, if we think about like what makes things go mainstream, a lot of times it's brands and their following and how they bring, people into the space. And so, working with agencies and brands and knowing how they think, a lot of brands, they are like, hey, like, we need to get into the next technology. Like it's either AI or Web3. And so that also drives it as well. Or it's like, the innovation department, only has, so many funds. And so we're going to choose one of the directions. And so they're going to either choose AI or Web3. And so, and an agency, they may pitch to a brand, different ideas for a new campaign or initiative, and they may only pitch an AI idea or may only pitch a Web3 idea. So there's a lot of different factors, but the technologies they're two completely different things. I'm working with a company right now that it does where you can create real high quality 3D animation with AI prompts, and you're able to token gate that platform. So like right there, it's like, to be able to use this AI platform, you have to hold this NFT. So that's a way right there where they're working together. But you can integrate AI technology into Web3 applications and vice versa. But the technologies are different. I think that they're only going to help each other. But yeah, because of certain narratives or how organizations may approach it, one may be bigger than one now, and that may just change over time. Over the next 10 years, it'll probably just go back and forth. AI, like, Shazam is AI, and we had that 15, 20 years ago, and like no one was really, it just weren't the right people behind it. There was no social media. There were no algorithms pushing it to the top to help it grow, but there were people already talking about it then. So, it's really just times have just changed. It's not a competitor, but you'll definitely see some people pushing one more than the other, depending on what they do as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation about this. I feel like AI has been around. Like my auntie is a computer science professor. She's been working on AI for like 20 years, and she's had me proofread some of her papers, which I totally don't understand. But it's the combination of like linguistics and math and code, right? It's like, how do we, through code, get computers to understand language, right? And that has been how Web 2 has in some ways developed, right? All of these algorithms that moderate and sort our content are reading what we're doing and making guesses as to what we mean, so that they can serve us content or put our content and distribute it in certain kinds of ways. And that has actually been one of the tools that has helped train AI to be the now ChatGPT kind of models that we see, right? It's the computer has been trying to learn and understand us for many, many years now. And I think what blockchain does is it adds the possibility of tracking, authenticating, and effectively distributing what we say and do, right? So, we have all this crisis of misinformation and disinformation and false narratives online. What would it mean to integrate blockchain into social media so that we know and can authenticate whether or not a post is from a bot or from a human, right? Like there's ways that actually these two technologies, like you said, can support each other and actually solve a lot of problems with both.
Yeah, no, the most successful people I know in the space, and I'm saying successful right now in the sense of making money, it's because they've used bots, which is just AI. And so what they've done is they've built and trained bots to learn which wallet addresses are most successful and have the best P&L, and so to follow that and to buy whatever those wallets buy, or to follow different wallets, and to show a red or a green dot based on if that person has been a scammer in the past. Giving notifications that can come to your phone when a new coin comes and there's a certain amount of volume, and based on that volume, then maybe just throw something in blindly. The most successful people in the space, like, again, it's coming to money. They blindly throw in their money based on trends and based on like bots that have been created. And like that's the perfect use of both of them coming together.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, AI has also been used from like traders with stocks, right? Like investment.
Exactly.
Using firms. It's the same kind of idea. But with blockchain, because the transactions right now are decentralized and open, right? You can actually grab a lot of data and use this program to like process more data than a human can, to make more effective investing decisions and maybe other kinds of decisions.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of copy trading in blockchain. I mean, you can figure out who the top 100 wallets are, put it in a program, and every time they make any kind of transaction, you can get a notification or alert to see what they're buying.
Of course. Yes. All the innovations are financial first, because people want to make money first. And then maybe later there'll be a little cultural to help us understand ourselves better as humans. This has been a great conversation. I've learned a lot. It's been fascinating to hear about your work. You're doing such innovative work out here. So I hope that people watch this and learn from you. I'm going to be following you. And thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thanks for giving a platform for people to share their passions and anything about emerging technologies. I think the quicker that we learn about these technologies, the better off we are, in many different ways. Either it's financially, either security, knowledge, teaching our kids, the next generation. The earlier that we learn about it, the better for all of that. So,
absolutely, 100% agree. All right, thanks, Jon.
Thank you. Bye.